no mask covering them up. So I'm glad we're here tonight in a manner that everybody can participate and hopefully get a lot out of this evening. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen as best I can because I have a PowerPoint presentation, but want to make sure, did everybody get the handouts? Were those emailed to you in advance of tonight?
Yes, everybody did get those this evening.
Okay, so we'll be using those, and I may put them on my screen, but more importantly, it really will be helpful for you to have them handy, whether you've printed them or can pull them up on your computer. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you said a handout?
Yeah, there were like 4 PDF files that I think should have been emailed to you.
No,
you don't have those?
No.
Erica, is there a way we can, who is it that's talking? Anthony?
Yes.
Is there a way we can get those to Anthony, Erica? You know, I could even, Anthony, what's your email address? I'm glad to just send them to you.
Husker_cats at yahoo.com.
Cats, C-A-T-S?
C-A-T-S.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'll pull up my other computer and see if I get them.
Okay, Husker_cats at?
Yahoo.
Yahoo. Okay, I'll send it right now and then we'll get started here. Everybody else good with handouts? All right, give me just a sec. Okay, Anthony, it should be on its way.
Okay.
So while I'm messing around with my computer, let me go ahead and pull up the slideshow here. And would love to have you do some introductions. So let's see, I guess I need to do share screen first. Erica, would you please let me know when this works, when you got it?
Mm-hmm.
Are we good? Can people see that?
It says you're screen sharing, but yep, now we can see it.
Okay, great. And I think it's going to go to the, we'll try to go to the full slideshow as opposed to having the side notes. So again, our subject matter tonight is the 5 love languages for children and teens. You can see my name here. My name is Eileen Rogensack. I'm actually joining you from the Denver metro area. Did this training for a very rural Department of Human Services in Southeast Colorado, down actually towards Wichita. And then I think somebody there was able to say, hey, we ought to bring this to our folks as well. So this is a presentation we did a few months ago, and if you're familiar at all with the Springfield or La Junta, Colorado area. So it's a pleasure to be joining you tonight. Would love to have some introductions. If people feel free to jump in, would love you to just give us your name, and even just first name is fine. The location, where is it that you are calling in from, and the reason or reasons that you're attending tonight's session.
And I want to let you know, Eileen, that it looks like our friend is on the phone with us as well.
Our friend?
Our little guy.
Oh, he is?
Yes.
Oh,
Dee Dee,
okay.
is that your son that's going to be joining us this evening?
It's Emery, right?
Maybe not.
His mom is Stacy?
Oh, never mind then. Never mind.
Okay, because I was going to say we're an hour off, and I hope the time changed it. Or we're on Mountain Time, y'all are on Central Time. So are we good?
We're good. Never mind.
Okay. So would love to have folks jump in, tell us your name, where you're calling in from, and why you're attending this session tonight. Even if it's, you know, I appreciate honesty if to say, well, I need these credits to get what I have to do to continue being a foster parent or whatever. So please let us know why you're here. So as you're ready to jump in, please do so.
I haven't received that email yet.
Okay, well, hang tight, Anthony. Let's see if I can get it out while people are introducing themselves.
Okay.
I'm Josh from Seneca, Kansas, and I'm needing my in-person training hours for continuing foster care.
And are you currently a foster parent, Josh?
Yes, I am, with my wife. She's on this chat too.
Great, thank you, welcome.
Okay, my name's Anthony Jones. I live in Abilene, Kansas, and we are transitioning from foster to adoption.
Great, thanks, Anthony.
What?
My name's
I
Jody
think someone
King.
might be,
My name's Jody King. I'm in Liberal, Kansas. I was needing more PD hours, and this looked interesting. So
okay, and are you a fostering parent, or what's your connection?
I am a fostering parent that currently does not have any kids.
Okay, welcome.
I'm Sherry.
I'm Brandy Green.
And
Go ahead, I'm sorry, we probably had two people jump on at the exact same time.
did. You can go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. I'm Brandy Green, and this is my husband, Kevin Green, and we're in Lawrence, Kansas. And we're foster parents, and we're working to renew our license.
All right, thanks so much.
From the chat, it says, good evening. I am Andrea. I am joining from Lawrence, Kansas. I work with youth in juvenile justice, and it is great to look at children from all points of view. I always want to learn more.
All right, Andrea, thanks so much.
I'm Courtney from Baldwin City. I've got my foster daughter with us right now, along for training, so maybe she'll learn something too. But I'm here for continuing education, just getting my hours in. And I do really think the 5 love languages is really interesting, so I've never thought about it from a child's perspective. Thought it sounded cool.
Okay, Courtney, thanks.
I'm Deanna. I am Whitewater, Kansas. It's just my continuing education credits.
All right, welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Oh, sorry. I'm Sherry Day, and I'm from Waukene, Kansas, and I'm getting some hours for foster parenting.
And are you a current foster parent?
For the last 23 years, yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, maybe you should give the class.
No, I don't think so. I'm not above learning.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm getting hours to renew my license.
And what's your name?
Ashley.
Ashley, and are you a current parent?
Yes.
All right, welcome.
I'm Donita. I'm her mom. I'm also working toward my renewal.
Welcome, Donita.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm Pam Clausen, and I'm from Whitewater, Kansas also, and I am just getting my hours, but I've always been intrigued by the 5 love languages. I kind of scanned the book one time, and so yeah, the class appealed to me just to learn more.
Great, and are you currently fostering or adopting?
Oh, right now we're just doing respite care.
Okay, terrific, thank you. couple more.
I'm Nicole, and my husband and I are from Gardner, Kansas, and we are currently fostering to adopt. And I'm just getting credit hours, and I just find that the love language thing with children seems very interesting.
All right, Nicole, thanks. Welcome. Anyone else?
I'm Jessica from Hutchinson, Kansas. I am a current foster parent, and I thought this would be a good tool for those new kids coming that you don't really know. A good way to kind of connect and assess how to feed that connection with them.
All right, good. I hope this is helpful. Anyone else? Anthony, has that email shown up yet?
I'm still looking for it.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, if it doesn't show up before, here in a few minutes, we're going to be taking one of the love language tests. And so at that point, I will unshare my screen and make sure it went out and or send it to you again. All right.
I need, I can just reschedule this class.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so I think I'll just jump out now and reschedule, okay?
Well, oh, okay. I get to say, we're not going to be doing this class again. I don't know if they record them and you can do it that way, but it's completely up to you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. All right. So let's start out by talking.
We're eating a slice of bread.
What?
Would you wash your oops, let me pause.
So I think we need to make sure everybody mutes their microphone for now. And as Erica said, certainly feel free to jump in with questions or whatever, but we'll try to minimize. This is as we all know, this is a fascinating way to get through our day with people from all over trying to be in one place at one time and concentrating. So mute will help a lot. Essentially, and it sounds like we've got several people who are familiar with the love languages, so I'm excited to hear that this isn't completely new information. But ultimately, the conversation we're going to have this evening is going to cover what is considered breakthrough research. It's been around now for about 20 or more years by a gentleman named Dr. Gary Chapman. And it is grounded in, his Christian faith. So just so you know, you're going to see some stuff tonight that essentially will look like it comes from that arena. You're not going to see much of that, but ultimately in the psychological community, it is considered very solid theory and evidence-based practices. So ultimately, what we're here to talk about is something that is a proven way of explaining human behavior and particularly human communications amongst adults, between adults and children, amongst children. It essentially applies to us all. As you can see probably on the handouts, our general agenda tonight is to talk first about what are the love languages, and to specifically look at our own personal love languages. So we're going to be doing an assessment of our own, if that's something you're not already familiar with. I think probably pretty quickly, even before you take the assessment, you may get a pretty good sense of what your own love language is. And then we will move from there into how this applies to children and teens. Dr. Chapman and another gentleman he's connected with, who's very much part of the child psychology arena, Ross Campbell. It's Gary Chapman and Ross Campbell have taken the general theory of love languages, which was initiated at the couple level for marriages and that sort of thing, but taken it to the level of saying, how does this work with children and how does this work with teens? So we'll spend a good chunk of our time tonight talking about both our own personal love languages, but also how does it apply to the younger people in our homes. And then also, how does this play out differently with kids who have been victims of trauma, and the kinds of situations that I'm sure you all encounter on a daily basis, and how we might be able to use this as a helpful concept and some of the tools that will be helpful to you in working with those kids. So ultimately, this is, at the end of the day, about unconditional love and our ability to delve into the realm and live feeling and showing unconditional love, which of course, as we all know, can be far easier said than done. But ultimately, I would assume that we would all agree, particularly in the arena where you all work, that that is something that is in short supply in some people's lives. And certainly the kids that you're working with would be good examples of that. So, so much of this theory is based on the fact that unconditional love can fill our emotional tanks. Dr. Chapman talks a lot about we all have an emotional tank that we need to fill, very much like the gas tank on our vehicles. And that is done by loving things done towards us. But the problem is that sometimes people do things in a very loving way, but if it's not speaking our love language, we don't perceive it as love, and therefore it does nothing to help fill our emotional tank. So tonight we're really talking about not only what does love look like and what are the love languages, but how important it is to use that knowledge of others' love languages such that we can fill their emotional tanks, and certainly such that they can do that for us. So we'd like to just start out with sort of immersing ourselves in the world we know best, which is our own world and our own heads. And just to think for a moment, and would love to have some folks share, if you could, on one of these 3 bullet points, either share with us the most thoughtful gift that you've ever received or that you've recently received, something that really comes to mind that really was meaningful to you. Another one would be the most encouraging words you've heard in your life or recently. What would those words sound like, and how were they delivered, and who delivered them? And then a third option would be a most appreciated task that was performed for my benefit. So that could be as simple as my son cleaned his room and I just so appreciated that. So as you think about your own emotional tank and the things that fill you, would love to have you share some short stories on the most thoughtful gift you've received, the most encouraging words you've heard, or the most appreciated task that was performed for your benefit. Please feel to jump in as things come to mind.
Well, recently I had my little dog. He was 20 years old and he passed on, and he had a chiropractor that saw him every other week, and he handmade a stone for Cecil's grave.
Wow, very nice. And why was that? Can you articulate why that was such a wonderful, it sounds like you're thinking of that as a task or maybe even a gift.
It was a thoughtful gift because, you know, he was a dog, and a lot of people will say that he was just a dog, but Dr. C let me know that he knew that it was more than just a dog to me.
Wonderful. Thank you. That's a great story. Others?
Andrea shared thoughtful is getting something sweet from her little. Encouraging is when somebody says, I'm proud of you. And appreciated is somebody doing something for her when she doesn't ask them to do it, and that's helpful to her.
Okay, good. So the simple words, I appreciate you, would be very encouraging words. And not having to be asked to do a task, that's a great example. Thank you. Others? Let's flip it around. Can you think of a particularly thoughtful gift that was really that you did that you gave someone else, or encouraging words that you have offered, or a task that you performed for someone else's benefit? These don't have to be big things. Anything that comes to mind that falls into those categories recently.
So I'll speak up. My father-in-law just had his 57th birthday. This is Courtney.
Okay.
But I don't know if you guys are aware of the website Cameo. This is very dumb, but it's like C-list celebrities will go on there and you can spend money like $50 and they will record a shout out for that person. So I bought that for my father-in-law for his birthday because I didn't know what else to get him, but it was something intangible and I couldn't wait to give it to him. And he was so excited. He said that meant the world to him because it was just very unique.
That's a great example. Thank you. My son did the same thing for my birthday last year.
Nice.
And it was Brett Favre, the football player. And
Yes.
I was blown away. I figured it was a lip sync I couldn't believe it was the real deal.
Yeah.
So, super gift. Thank you. Great story.
My mom and I helped push a teenager's
I think
car
they're
out
still
that
talking.
completely flooded.
I think it's cutting out. I think they're still talking.
Okay, if you're not talking, if you can keep your microphone on mute, that'd be terrific. So I'm sorry, someone was getting ready to tell a story about helping a teenager, I think?
Yes, my mom and I both helped push a teenager's car out of a gigantic puddle. Like the water went up over the hood of the car, the roof of the car. Like last summer, or the summer before, when it had been flooding here.
That's
and
a
the
huge
car started.
example. I can't even imagine that was for sure beyond appreciated. I'm quite certain. Thank you. Anyone else, something that comes to mind of something you've done for another that was either a thoughtful gift, encouraging words, or appreciated task?
I we adopted our grandchildren, age 3 and 4, and so I started a online Facebook encouraging words for grandparents who are raising grandkids. So
nice.
That's been kind of fun. Yeah.
Very cool.
We could really support each other, but it's been cool.
Sounds great. So all of these things are examples of really super nice things that we can do. But let me give you an example of one of these in my world that I look back now and I'm quite horrified. That third bullet, most appreciated task. Here in a minute, we're going to see what the different love languages are. And this one falls under a category. The 5 love languages include one category that is titled acts of service. And I don't know that I can apologize because it's just the way I'm wired, but acts of service don't do it for me. They do not fill my emotional tank. So I don't mean to be, ungrateful or anything like that. But years ago, I was dating a gentleman, and for my birthday, he wanted to give me a new roof for my house, which is a huge act of service and expensive and thoughtful gift and so forth, because I needed a roof. But I thought, you have got to be kidding me. What a lame birthday gift. And it wasn't a lame birthday gift, and it was obviously very generous on his part, but the problem was I don't speak the language of acts of service. So even though this was a huge sacrifice on his part, the problem is I was unable to take it as the act of love that it really was. So that's the kind of stuff we're going to explore today, to say he did his best. No one could have possibly expected him to do more, but for me, it didn't work because we speak different languages. So we'll explore that a little bit here in a bit. And part of the problem with the love languages and children particularly is we may not either be aware of this stuff or very well equipped to give love in a way that isn't natural for us. So if we continue with my example, and I don't want to make this all about me, but my love language happens to be a second category that's called quality time. How people show me love and how my tank gets filled is by spending quality time for me. I don't want you buying me a roof. I don't want you installing a roof. I want us to sit down and chat or go to a ball game or whatever. So a lot of this is certainly innate to the way we're born, and part of it is the way we are conditioned over the course of our lives. But certainly the biggest issue is when people believe they are trying to love us in the best way they possibly can, and they are speaking the wrong language. So a lot of us, of course, this starts in our families of origin when we were being raised. And so I have a series of questions here that, again, would invite you to weigh in on as these seem to strike you or strike a chord with you as regards your experience. The questions are, in filling a child's emotional tank and in your own experience, did you, plain and simple, feel adequately loved by your parents? How did your parents primarily express their love? Whether it is or isn't aligned with what you believe is love, how did they express it? What were your parents' successes and failures in conveying affection to you? And what similarities do you see in yourself? Are you repeating the things your parents did well or not so well? What have you intentionally done differently as regards expressing love to children? So, anybody willing to share on any of those questions? Would love to hear from someone who says, yes, I did feel adequately loved by my parents, and here's what they did to show that. Anyone able and willing to share in that regard?
I can share. So my parents definitely loved me, and they would, as a child, we'd always go outside as a family in the summertime and play catch together, or we'd kick around a soccer ball. We were always doing some type of activity, go for bike rides, go for walks. So we spent a lot of quality time together. And it was definitely apparent to me that my parents loved me by doing those activities, taking time out of their busy schedules to be with me.
Very good, thank you. Someone else? Pam, it looks like, yeah, Pam, please jump in.
Okay. Yeah, I had, my parents were, I think, good at expressing my love language is also quality time. My husband's is acts of service, so I can feel with you on that. But he washes dishes for me all the time, and I'm just like, I want to say, can you just sit down and visit with me? But anyway, but so my parents expressed just by always being there for us, but I feel like I hit those teenage years, and even though it was quality time, I hit that age when it wasn't cool and so I kind of rejected that. I kind of look back and wish I could do that one over, but yeah. And my own yes, I really like this study because I had a son who was words of affirmation, and that's not something I was good at, and I didn't figure it out until he was like about to graduate and leave home. And I made that up with him by sending him text messages of just with encouraging words and affirming him. And he was all over that. And I'm like, and he really appreciated that. So anyway, I'm sorry, I kind of got off this subject.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. Ultimately, but with your son, you know, you're kind of like me saying, sometimes I'm very late to the party, and you wish you could have known these things sooner. And that's really what this training is about. So thank you. Anyone else willing to share something about your own experience with your parents, or things you've seen carry forth into the way that you interact with your children, or for sure, including your foster children? ultimately, this is not one of those things where what our parents did right or wrong scars us forever. This is simply an issue of awareness and understanding and being open to the possibilities of learning about an individual. So I don't include this part to say, you know, tough on you if your parents messed up. It's more simply to say that we can really relate to our own children, what they may be experiencing if we look back at the time we were children and say, what did my parents do that made me feel loved? Or I know they were trying to, you know, dad went to work every day, but he never talked to me. And I didn't feel loved, even though dad may have felt that act of service of going to work every day was clearly his way of showing love. But if it wasn't filling my tank as a child, then again, this is all about, we got to get in sync. Otherwise, all the trying in the world isn't going to do us any good if we're not speaking the same language. So just want to give a little, I'm sorry?
Andrea did put in the chat, my parents express love differently, which makes it hard as a parent because I wasn't raised to tell you, I'm proud of you, I love you. I know my kids need that and I've learned how.
Very good. Yeah, appreciate it. And this is something that if someone speaks the same language as we do, it's a lot easier. If not, it's an opportunity for growth, as we say. And it can be a struggle. I would agree with Andrea and Pam. I do have trouble with words of affirmation. That doesn't come as new to me. And we want to make sure this is always genuine. And when we have to struggle or work on it, I tend to believe, does it come off as genuine or does it seem fakey? And clearly we don't want this to seem fake. So appreciate that, Andrea, thanks. So just wanted to add this quote in here because interestingly enough, the love languages, if improperly used, can really be actually used as weaponry. An easy example is for kids and adults, but particularly kids, whose love language is words of affirmation. When we start coming down on them and being critical and calling names and so forth, there is literally nothing worse we can do at that stage because ultimately we are using something we know that they need that affirmation and we're using it in a really negative way. So this slide just simply is a reminder to say that what we are looking for through this study and through these techniques we're going to talk about are to connect, to accept, and to nurture. And when we don't do that, basically we can very quickly find ourselves causing in children, maybe inadvertently, but causing them to feel abandoned, rejected, and or even abused. So this is pretty powerful stuff, and I'm not saying that to scare anybody to say you got to use this right, just simply to say we want to use this in positive ways as we're working with children and trying to figure out where they're coming from and how to fill their emotional tanks. Okay, so for those of you who have not had any exposure to the love languages, we've given some teasers as to what those look like or are, and we've got about a 5 or 6 minute video that I'd like to share, and I think Erica has queued up so that we can have a pretty good explanation of the 5 love languages. So do I need to unshare my screen, Erica? Is that what I need to do?
No, I think I'll be able to get there.
Okay.
Let me get here real quick. 5 love languages explained. Okay. Here we go.
Thanks. Do we have the audio?
Oh, is it not playing?
Maybe others could hear it, but I didn't hear any audio.
Let's see here. Can you hear that? No? Well, I wonder why it's not, because I can hear it just fine. Well, I'm sorry. Here I thought I'd get it up and it would be playing just fine. Shows on screen sharing.
You know what? Let me unshare my screen just to make sure that that's not what's holding us up.
Okay.
And I will also try to bring it up on my computer in case we need to switch and try to run it from here.
Okay. Could you hear that?
I'm not hearing anything.
No. Well, I'm not sure what to do to get it to play. Share computer sound. Let's try that. Hold on.
Everything you can to please your partner.
Can you hear
but
that?
they're still feeling frustrated, and
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we'll start.
video is going to be on the book, The
Thanks.
Five Love Languages, The Secrets to Love That Last by Dr. Gary Chapman. So have you ever been in one of those relationships where you think you're doing everything you can to please your partner, but they're still feeling frustrated and unloved? I mean, you're giving them compliments, you work hard all day to bring home the bacon and pay the bills, you give them gifts, and you even do some chores around the house, but they're still feeling unloved. I mean, what more do they want, right? It's incredibly frustrating and annoying. Well, the reason why they aren't feeling loved, in short, is that you're not speaking their love language. The premise of the book is that people don't give and receive love in the same way. Most of us think that the way we want to be loved is how others want to be loved as well. But this is not the case. There are, in fact, 5 love languages. This is huge because if you're not speaking the same language as your partner, then you could be missing the mark completely and not even know it. It's basically the equivalent of a British guy trying to talk to a Chinese guy. It's not going to go well because they're simply not going to understand each other. If you're going to have a strong relationship, you have to know how you and your partner both give and receive love. The 5 love languages are words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. Let's go through each one a little deeper. Words of affirmation. Do you like hearing I love you or compliments or meaningful words above all else? Are insults especially detrimental to your relationship? If so, then this is probably your love language. If you discover that this is your partner's love language, make sure you give them genuine compliments and tell them you appreciate them often. The second love language is quality time. Do you value full and undivided attention above all else? One-on-one time with the TV off, the cell phone put away, and no distraction is what makes this type of person feel loved the most. Canceled or postponed dates and failure to listen are especially hurtful to this type. If this is your partner's love language, learn to listen better, make eye contact more, and spend more time with them instead of at the office or glued to your cell phone. Ask them what they'd like to do with you, and then schedule a date to do it. Don't assume what they like to do with you, ask. The third love language is receiving gifts. Sure, we all like getting gifts, but this type of person loves receiving gifts above all else. Gifts to this type of person mean everything because it shows the love, thought, and effort that went into the gift. I'm not talking about materialistic or the cost of the object, but the thought behind it. Missed birthdays, anniversaries, and thoughtless gifts tear this type of person apart. The cost doesn't matter, it's the thought. It can be as simple as a card or some picked flowers or a note saying that you love their eyes. The fourth language is acts of service. Chores around the house or errands that ease the burden of responsibility are the loving characteristics of this love language. This can be as simple as taking out the trash, paying the bills, doing the dishes, picking up the kids from school, and so on. Broken commitments and laziness can make this type feel unloved. And lastly, physical touch. This doesn't necessarily mean sex. If hugs, cuddling, holding hands, and thoughtful touches are the most important thing to you, then this could be your love language. If their physical presence is crucial to you, then this could be an indicator as well. Any kind of neglect or abuse would destroy this type of person and their relationship. So which one do you most strongly identify with? Keep in mind, you should only have one primary love language. Sure, we may like all those things, but one of them should resonate with you the most. Really think about each one and imagine your partner doing each one in turn and see how you feel. If you're still having a hard time, let's look at a couple ways to figure out your love language. First, examine your childhood. How did your parents express their love to you? What made you feel loved? That may have translated to how you now express and receive it. Another way is to ask, what's your first instinct when you want to show someone you love them? Trust your instinct. And the third way is to look at how you've been hurt deeply in the past. What hurt the most? Exploring that can help shed light on what your love language is. If you still don't know, go take the quiz over at 5lovelanguages.com. Now that you know your love language, think about these love languages from your partner's perspective. Can you identify their love language? I highly suggest you ask them to take the quiz instead of assuming what it is. Remember, what we think is an act of love may not be seen that way by your wife, your husband, or your partner. It really is vital that we learn and understand their love language if we want to make them feel loved. So, find your partner's love language and speak it. Do something special once a week to fill up what Dr. Chapman calls their love tank. Your love tank is like the gas tank in a car. You want to fill it up and keep it full. When your tank is full, your love life will be at its best, and a full tank can keep you going through trying times and relationship difficulties. If you're not consistently filling up the tank, you'll be running on fumes and eventually you'll burn out. Now, if your relationship's already running on fumes, then it'll take a while for the love tank to get full, so keep at it, keep speaking their love language, and over time, your relationship will start going in the right direction. And another big takeaway from the book, Dr. Chapman explains that love is a choice. It's something that you can control. It's a feeling, and even if you lose some of those feelings over the course of a marriage or any other long-term relationship, you can choose to do the actions first, and the feelings of love will follow. This sounds a little counterintuitive, but it works. So that's it, guys. Quick recap. First, you need to find out what your own love language is. It can be words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, or physical touch. And then find out what your partner's love language is. Don't assume what it is, talk to them about it. Then make a commitment to do something special each week, something that ties into their primary love language. Alright, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. And feel free to check out some of my other videos. Thanks, guys.
All right, terrific. Erica, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if I hit share screen, we go back to mine. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. So I hope that gave people a good overview and a good sense of what we're talking about. Just want to quickly show you some of the titles of the Love Language series. And so that, you know, if there's other things that you're going to be interested in as far as exploring more, reading the Love Languages book, or perhaps Love Languages for Children, that kind of thing, you'll know what's out there. Now I'm having trouble getting my computer to move forward. So, hold on. There we go. Okay, so this was the original book, The 5 Love Languages, and clearly this is focused on couples and romantic kind of relationships, but again, is more universally applicable than that. The next 2 books, and the ones that we'll be spending a little bit of time pulling information from tonight, are the 5 Love Languages of Children. The languages are the same, but obviously the application of them looks a little different. And then the 5 Love Languages of Teenagers. Interestingly, it even gets into the workplace. The physical touch one is a little different in the workplace, but it's still the same languages by and large. And then there's lots of other variations, including 5 Love Languages for Singles. So just know that these books are out there, all based on the same concept, and will allow you to learn a lot more about these love languages and how they play out, and again, can really be positive parts of relationships. So what we like now to do is to say, what is my love language? In your handouts, you were provided 3 tools. One is the Love Languages for Couples, which is the one I want you to pull out, and we'll give you some time to essentially take the quiz yourself and score it. And then the other 2 are the Love Languages for Children and Love Languages for Teens. And here in a few minutes, we're going to have a little boy and a teenage girl join us, and we'll go ahead and apply those instruments to them as well. But for now, if you can go ahead and spend some time looking through the Love Languages profile instrument for couples, go ahead and score yourselves. Just FYI, these were provided in PDF form, but you're welcome to copy them. Dr. Chapman and his partners in all of this want us using them. You're not allowed to make money off of them, but they are copywritten, and only to the degree that as long as you're using them within a group that you're not making money, it's great with them. So please feel free to give copies to your spouses or neighbors or whatever. But I'll go ahead and give you a few minutes here to work on the instrument and see if some of you that are new at this can identify your love language. Take a couple more minutes. All right, I hope everybody's had a chance to more or less finish this up. So I would love to hear from anybody who's new to this and to hear what you learned about yourself. Or maybe you didn't learn, you just affirmed something about yourself. So anyone willing to jump in and tell us how your score looks?
I actually have a question. Is there a difference in the way you receive love versus the way you show love? Because, like, my husband, we thought that he would be one thing because that's how he shows love, but he was something that we didn't expect. Or how he receives.
You know, whoever's talking, you're cutting out really badly, but I think the question was, could it be that the way I want to receive love and the way I want to give love are different? And the answer is absolutely. I think a lot of us may have, for instance, we may say, I want to hear words of affirmation, but it feels really comfortable for me to give a gift. That could be an easy combination or any variation on that. So absolutely. So essentially we've got four things going on here. In our relationship with someone, we've got how we want to feel love, how we want to give love, how they want to feel love, and how they want to give love. So there's a lot of dynamics going on there that could mean as many as four languages being involved that are just, again, not in sync. So that's a great question. Others, comments, questions, or anything you discovered about yourself as far as, we'd love to hear from some folks that have a different love language than we've heard of. We've heard of people that are real strong on quality time. We've heard about people who like to do acts of service. Is there anybody out there who's a gift giver or who likes getting gifts? I was told our little boy who's going to join us here in a few minutes, his love language is chocolate. So that's a little bit of a variation on the whole thing. But
We
clearly,
do have,
I think, go ahead, I'm sorry.
We do
Please.
have a gift giver out there.
We do have one?
We do. Yep, Andrea is a gift giver.
Okay. Andrea, I appreciate it, and would love to know how that works for those around you. One thing that it was interesting when we did this class in La Junta, Colorado a few months ago. One gentleman said, well, gifts seems like sort of a shallow thing to me, as if that was a lesser love language than the others. And I would really caution you, because I think we'll talk here in a little bit about some of the pitfalls or some of the warnings around different love languages. But I know gifts have a different connotation in many ways in our society, and particularly for kids who may have, experienced some parenting where gifts were sort of used to make up for things that weren't provided or for bad things that might have occurred. So certainly any of these can be abused, but to say that gifts as a love language is any less or more than the others would be a fallacy in looking at how this works. Andrea comes by the gift giving love language just as honestly as I would come by the quality time one. So appreciate hearing that. I have a friend who literally almost broke an engagement because her fiance did not give her a birthday gift early enough on the day of her birthday. And she was fuming until that gift finally came through. And it seems ridiculous to me, but it was very, very real for her. And I love that story. So anyone else?
Yeah. Brandy did say that she has two things. She said she'd venture to guess that her current foster daughter would like to receive gifts, but she said she has a friend who is a gift giver and she gives the most thoughtful gifts.
Okay, so she's genuinely a very good gift giver, and it sounds like I look at gifts as if it can be reflective of the giver but truly customized for the recipient, that's an ideal gift. And certainly it sounds like your friend has that wired. So yes, very good. Thanks.
Just gonna.
Yes. Stacy just popped on.
Okay, thank you.
I was just gonna jump on and say I don't usually chat too much because the background noise of kids and dogs. But I think most people find it surprising when I give a gift. Actually, I gave one today to my neighbor who absolutely loves plants. I love plants too, and I had a wandering dude, and I've been meaning to give it to her for a few weeks, but I know she's having a hard time with some parenting things with her ex, and she works and she's a full-time student. So when I give gifts, they're very meaningful and very thoughtful. Yes, I'm gonna ask you what you want, and you may not get exactly what you want, but you can tell that I've picked something special for you. Like Christmas, we made ornaments, and my friend's son said, these are really personalized. And I'm thinking, that's the point. I love to give gifts. Like the ornaments I made were very special and very personalized to each person. And everybody got something different. For my kids, I'm not married, so I probably spend too much money in general because sometimes I just collect things for later on down the road. But most of the time my kids don't actually get anything very expensive. It's very rare. I would say birthdays and just because. And it's everything from maybe like last year I got my son a Christmas mug that had his initials on it because he was the only one who didn't have his own yet because he was 4. To something bigger like a smartwatch that I gave my teenager. So it's really from 0, I made something and we had it on hand, to infinity, but I'm very thoughtful when I do it. And like I said, most people are very, very surprised. So, and it's weird. I don't mind getting gifts, but that's not my love language. And quality time is and physical touch are my bottom 2. So
well, thank you. Yeah, that's interesting. So I think your biggest concern is because you're so good at this and you enjoy it so much, we just got to make sure that those on the other end, that it's filling their emotional tank as much as it's filling yours to do it for them. So
right.
That's really great. Thanks for sharing that. And again, I think the point is it's unconditional, it's meaningful is what you're trying to convey, and that's exactly where we're trying to get. So Thank you. We will come back to this conversation, but we have our first guest appearance, and we're going to talk with Emery, and I think he's online with his mom and his younger brother, so we may get to hear from Louie as well. But would love to have you all pull up your handout that is titled Love Languages Mystery Game. And so we're going to ask Emery to play the Love Languages Mystery Game with us. So let's go ahead, and Emery, I can see you smiling. Hi there.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Can you introduce us to to yourself and introduce us to whoever else is sitting there with you?
Hi, I'm Emery.
And who am I?
Great.
I'm sitting next to my mom, Stacy.
Hi. And
Louie.
Louie. Hi, Louie.
please don't break my sunglasses. Okay.
So Emery, tell us how old you are, and tell us how old Emery, or how old Louie is, and you don't have to tell us how old your mom is.
I'm 6 and 3/4.
Okay.
4. I'm 4 1/4.
4 1/4. Perfect. You guys are math guys. So Louie, do you know what, or I'm sorry, not Louie, Emery, do you know what we're here to do today?
No.
Okay, did your mom tell you you were going to get chocolate for doing it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll make good on that, but I have some questions I'm going to ask you, and all you have to do is answer them. I'm going to give you 2 choices, and all the other people who are listening are just going to try to figure out what it is that is Emery's love language. Have you ever heard of a love language?
No.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter that you've not heard of it, but you're going to be able to help us learn a lot by just answering these questions, okay?
Okay.
And if Louie wants to jump in, that's fine as well. But I will tell everybody that this instrument is not intended for use for kids under the age of 5. Essentially, Dr. Chapman would tell you, you can try to figure out the love language of kids under the age of 5, but it's going to be difficult to do. So your best bet is to use all love languages with younger kids. So Emery, you ready to go?
Yep.
Okay, so here's your 2 choices. I want to know whether you would rather have your mom or your dad give you a hug or say to you, "You are terrific."
Okay.
Oh no, which would you rather?
The hug?
Hug.
Okay, you just demonstrated it. Very good. Okay, would you rather have your mom or dad give you a special birthday present or help you with a project?
Give me a special birthday present.
Okay. Would you rather have your mom or dad say, "Let's go to a movie," or give you a high five?
Let's go to a movie.
Sounds like you're pretty excited about that one. Okay. Would you rather have your mom or dad say, "You are so smart," or would you rather have them say, "Have you made your Christmas list?"
You're so smart.
Okay, good. How about, would you help me cook dinner, or I like to go fun places with you?
I like to go fun places with you.
Okay, good. How about if they say, "Give me a kiss," or "You are number one"?
You are number one.
All right. Sounds like you're enthusiastic about that one. Louie, are you okay? Do you want to answer any of these questions?
Sure.
Okay,
No.
which would you rather have? Would you rather have your mom or dad say, "Give me a kiss," or "You are number one"?
You are number one.
All right. Let me ask you one more, and then we'll go back to Emery. Would you rather have your mom or dad say, "I've got a surprise for you," or "We can make something really cool"?
I got a surprise for you.
Okay, thank you.
One more.
What's that?
One more.
One more. Would you rather have your dad or mom say, "Let's watch TV together," or "Tag, you're it"?
Tag, you're it.
Okay, very good. Let's go back to Emery. Emery, which would you rather have? "You did a great job," or "You've earned a special surprise"?
You've earned a special surprise.
Okay. How about, "You can invite your friends," or let's go to your favorite restaurant?
Let's go to your favorite restaurant.
All right. How about I'm going to give you a big hug, or you are an awesome kid?
You are an awesome kid.
All right. How about I made your favorite food, or I checked your homework and it looks great?
I've made your favorite food.
What is your favorite food?
Corn dogs.
I like corn dogs too. Okay. Let's go back to Louis and ask him a couple questions.
Are you ready?
Louis?
This is
You ready? Would you rather hear you are fun to hang out with, or I'll race you?
I'll race you.
Okay. And one more question. Would you rather hear them say, wow, you did it, or check under your bed for a special present?
Check on your bed for a special present. One more.
Okay. What's that?
That's it, Lou.
That's it. Let's try one more or a couple more with Emery.
Great work.
Emery, would you rather hear I cleaned up your room for you, or let's play a game together?
Let's play a game together.
Okay. How about would you like for me to scratch your back, or you can do it, don't give up?
You can do it, don't give up.
All right. How about what would you like for your birthday, or we can pick up your friend on the way to the movie?
We can pick up your friend on the way to the movie.
Okay. How about I always like doing stuff with you, or you are so huggable?
I like doing stuff with you.
Okay. Two more. How did you know how to do that? You are brilliant. Or I can't wait to give you your present.
I can't wait to give you your present.
Okay. Don't worry, I'll pick you up on time. Or let's spend the day doing whatever you want to do.
Let's spend the day doing whatever you want to do.
Okay. That's it. That's all we needed. Do you care if anybody else asks you any more questions? Would that be okay?
More for me.
More for Louis. Not
More for Louis.
me.
Okay. Does anybody have any
See
questions?
ya.
Oh, no. Just wait till she says it's time to go, okay?
Anybody have any other questions they would like to ask, or choices they would like to give Louis to try to figure out what his love language is?
Stay here, please.
Hi.
We're almost done.
All right, Louis, I'm going to ask you one more question, then we'll let you guys go. And I appreciate you joining us tonight. Thanks so much. So here's your question. I always like doing stuff with you, or you are so huggable?
I always like doing stuff with you.
All right, that's a good answer.
Me.
All right.
Okay,
Stacy.
Bye. I'm going to get my.
Whoa. Shh. Careful.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Or a candy
We'll let you know what we find out about.
Can we have chocolate or candy?
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you. Good luck, everybody.
Mom, can we have chocolate or candy?
Thank you. All right. Erica, do we happen to have Mac on the line yet?
We sure do.
Okay. Everybody, we're gonna have to process all this at the end. So would someone else like to administer the questions this time with Mac? Anyone? All right, well, if not, I will go ahead and ask the questions. So we have Mackenzie with us. Hi, Mac.
Hi.
Tell us who you are, where you are, how old you are, what you're doing at school. This is a group joining us. Everybody on here except for me and you are from Kansas.
Okay, I'm Mackenzie Jones. I am 15. I'm from Colorado. I'm in Castle Rock right now. And in school right now, I'm writing 3 papers currently, and I'm working on a project for my physics class. And that's about it.
Okay. I didn't know they even let 15-year-olds take physics. That's impressive. Yeah. All right. So what we're going to do, Mac, we are doing a class, as I told you, on what's called love languages, which you said you hadn't really heard of. But I'm going to give you a series of 2 scenarios, and you're going to just say which one you prefer. All right?
Okay.
And we're going to have 30 questions. Everybody else is looking at the same instrument that I'm looking at as far as asking you questions. And we're going to try to figure out what your love language is. And I'll be back in touch with you after we get done with the class to let you know what we think your love language is. All right?
Okay.
Okay. So this really applies to your relationship with your mom and your dad. Mac has parents who they are not married to each other. And so she has her dad's house where she is right now, I assume, and also her mom's house. So as I ask you these questions, it can apply to either of your parents. All right? So your first choice, would you rather have your mom or dad ask you what you think or put his or her arm around your shoulder?
Ask me what I think.
Okay. Go to your ball game or recital or something like that, or do your laundry?
Go to a special event of mine.
Okay. All right. Buy you clothes or watch TV or a movie with you?
Watch TV or a movie.
Okay. How about help you with your school project or hug you?
Hug me.
All right. Good. Kiss you on the cheek or give you money for things you need?
Give me money.
I would guess most teenagers would give that answer, but good enough. Take time off of work to do something with you or rub your shoulders or back?
Take time off of work to do something with me.
Very good. Give you cool things for your birthday or reassure you when you fail or mess up?
Reassure me when I fail.
All right. Give you a high five or respect your opinions?
Respect my opinions.
Go out to eat or shop with you or let you use his or her stuff?
Go out to eat and shop.
Okay. How about mom or dad tells me I'm the best daughter in the world or drives you to places you need to go?
I'm the best daughter in the world.
They don't even have to say that. We already know that. Okay. Eats at least 1 meal a day with you, most every day, or listens to you and helps you work through problems?
Listens to me and help work through problems.
Okay. Does not invade my privacy or holds or shakes my hand?
Does not invade my privacy.
Very good. Leaves me encouraging notes or knows what your favorite store is?
Leaves me encouraging notes.
Very good. Hangs out with me sometimes or sits next to me on the couch?
Hangs out with me sometimes.
Tells me how proud he or she is of me or cooks meals for me?
Tell me how proud they are of me.
Very good. Straightens your collar or necklace or whatever, or shows interest in the stuff that you're interested in?
Show interest in the stuff I'm interested in.
All right, about halfway done. Allows your friends to hang out at their house or pays for you to go on a church or school trip?
Allow my friends to hang out.
Okay. Tells you you look good or listens to you without judging you?
Listens to me without judging me.
Touches or rubs your head or sometimes lets you pick out where we go on family trips?
Sometimes let me pick out where we go on family trips.
Very good. Takes you to the doctor or dentist, trusts you to be at home alone?
Trusts me to be at home alone.
Takes you on a trip with him or her, or takes you and your friends to the movies, ball games, so forth?
Go on a trip.
Okay. Gives you stuff that you really like, or notices when you do something good?
Notice when I do something good.
Gives you extra spending money, or asks you if you need help?
Ask me if I need help.
All right. Doesn't interrupt you when you're talking, or likes the gifts you buy for him or her?
Doesn't interrupt me when I'm talking.
Very good. Lets me sleep in late sometimes, or seems to really enjoy spending time with you?
Really enjoys spending time with me.
Okay. Pats you on the back, or buys you stuff and surprises you with it?
Buys me stuff and surprises me with it.
All right. tells you that he or she believes in you, or can ride in the car with you without lecturing you?
Tell me they love me.
Okay, believing you, that they believe in you.
Oh yeah, the believe in
That
me.
work? Okay, good. That's a hard choice there. Picks up stuff that you need from various stores, or sometimes holds or touches your face.
Picks up stuff I need from stores.
Okay. Gives you some space when you're feeling upset or angry, or tells you that you're talented or special.
Gives me space.
Okay. Hugs or kisses you at least once every day, or says that he or she is thankful that you are his or her child.
Hugs me every day, at least once.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other love language questions for Mackenzie? All right. Mackenzie, thanks so much.
Thank you.
We'll let you know what your love language is.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate you coming in. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. So I hope that was helpful. For now, we will just stay here. So let's go back to, we've now had 3 assessments in a row. We assessed ourselves, we assessed a child and a teenager, which we asked very different questions of all 3. Clearly they're all thematic, but they are age appropriate, relationship appropriate. So first of all, anything that you're wondering about the process or you would like to comment on the process? And then also your thoughts on what you believe is Emery's love language and what you think might be Mac's love language. Anyone willing to give it a shot?
I just have a kind of a related thought. To some extent, can love languages be dependent on the age? Because it just seems like, you know, kids are going to be more universally maybe interested in gifts. Teenagers are maybe averse to physical touch. So I'm just wondering how much that changes over time.
That's a great question. And I think that, I don't know that it changes so much as it manifests itself differently. So one of the things that's, I think, difficult for adults is to say, how do I segue when my child goes into the teen years in doing things that are more age appropriate and that they're not going to get, you know, significant pushback. And I think the love languages books are good at helping with ideas on how you do that. But ultimately, the theory is that for most of us, our love language, our primary language, and a lot of us may have some languages that are close. Typically, we have our primary language and then we have a secondary language. It's not true with everybody, but with most people, we have a very clear core or primary love language, and then with a secondary backup. And that does not change over time. But again, I think it does manifest itself differently. And I agree. I think that we heard, you know, the kids kind of jumping right on the gifts thing. One of the things that we're going to see later in the slideshow is gifts can be tricky. And particularly one indicator of whether it really is a child's love language or not is what they do with the gift after they receive it. Do they play with it for a long period of time, or do they, after it's received and the thrill is over, it just gets pushed to the wayside? That would be one indicator that the gifts may not be their primary love language, even though kids can get very excited about gifts. So I think that's an excellent question. Again, I would say that referring to the books for more information on this stuff would be very valuable, as to it's not easy necessarily to assess a child's love language. And so the prevailing thought is apply all the love languages as best you can. But I'm going to skip forward to this slide that talks about how you would go about determining a child or teen's love language. You may or may not in your home feel comfortable applying the mystery game or the series of questions we just asked. But that can be done in different ways. It can be done, over time. You don't have to just sit down and do a question answer kind of format. But some of these other ways to look at determining a child's love language or a teen's love language may be much more natural for you. First of all, a lot of this is about our own observations. How does this child convey love to me? If a child is in a position where they're actually doing that. How do you see that child conveying love to others? That's one indicator. Again, we've already said we don't necessarily give love and receive love in the same ways, but at least those are observable things over time. What requests does he or she make more often? That might be a very good indicator of what is going to fill their emotional tank. So if it's, can you spend time with me? Please, can we do this? Or can you help me? Those kinds of questions would be indicators of what may be their love language. What does he or she most frequently complain about? And I think that is, I can see that even in my own love language as an adult, that when I'm complaining about something, it tends to be that my love language is not being spoken. I'm not being fed by what feeds me most. The game is really pick between two options. And by process of asking enough questions, we move in on the target of what amongst the 5 is the primary love language. And then the 15-week experiment that is suggested in the books is simply to say, really do a job on concentrating on one love language for a 3-week period and see how that goes in giving love in the way that that love language would accept it. So for 3 weeks, I'm going to spend a lot of quality time. For another 3 weeks, I'm going to concentrate on gifts or words of affirmation or acts of service or whatever it may be. And then over time, over that 3-week period, really try to observe how the child or teen responds to that. So those are just some thoughts on how to determine a love language. But again, I don't think there's anything wrong if you can feel like you can get some good, honest answers out of a child or a teen to use the mystery game or the questionnaire. Thoughts, comments, other ideas on what you think you heard from Emery and Mac? What did you not hear from them? If you think about the love languages that did not seem as interesting or as important to them, did anything stand out to you?
Probably not quality time for Mackenzie.
Okay. And Pam, what would you say instead of that was the
Probably words of affirmation, or someone came to my door and I didn't hear it all, or maybe acts of service. I don't know.
Okay.
Words of affirmation.
All right.
I'm not sure.
I was unable to score it. I was too busy asking questions. I would say for Emery, it seemed to me that he was pretty big on words of affirmation. He liked the "you're number one" and "you're brilliant" and those kinds of things. He seemed to respond really well to those. Other things that people observed, or did anybody actually do a good job of being able to score either of these kids? If you think about your own scenario, kids that are in your home right now or kids who have been in your home in the past, how does this feel as regards your comfort with looking at it this way, being able to determine what their love language might be, how this might be helpful to you? Anybody have any thoughts on that, stories you can share with us as to the applicability of this?
I have something that I thought of while we were going through this. I mentioned that my oldest son, he's 32 now, that I figured out that his were words of affirmation, but I would have never thought that because while he was at home, he was the one that put everybody down. But then I figured out later that because his needs were not being met, that's how he lashed out. So he put other people down with his words. And so now sometimes you can identify it in that way if you know that they're in a, I don't know, a hard place like he was. And so, and I also, experience with family members. We had some family members that didn't get along with anybody, and they were very critical. And my brother, who really enjoys working with people with the love languages, he said, I don't know what their love language is. He said, I just can't figure it out. And finally, he figured it out that theirs was words of affirmation, both of them. And he really went out of his way to affirm them and compliment them on anything he could find. And he could tell that they really responded to that. And it really made a lot of changes actually in our relation. It was another brother made a lot of changes in the relationships in our family. And so, so I'm really, and the same brother has a daughter with the love language of gifts. And he said, we didn't have to buy her a gift. Sometimes it was just finding something for her that she couldn't find. And he would say, oh, here it is. And just something simple like that spoke to her. So
Very
anyway.
good. Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. So yeah, again, these things can be used in negative and positive ways, and words are powerful. And for people that speak the words of affirmation, they really know how powerful they are. So that's an interesting dynamic to say they were able to use those very critically with others. And essentially, it sounds like it was a backlash to say, I'm not getting what I need, so therefore kind of beat on you. So.
Can I say something?
Please.
Okay. I have an autistic 12-year-old that we're fostering, and it's really hard to know her love language because she doesn't communicate effectively, and she's probably functions like maybe a preschooler or whatever.
Okay.
But I figured out recently, I mean, she's been with us since she's 4, and I can't say recently, but I've just kind of compiled the data, so to speak. But she loves gifts. I'm telling you, you give her a gift and her eyes light up and she is hugging you, and she is, that is her thing. You give her a gift. Usually it's whatever character she happens to be focused on at the time, but still, anyway, a gift is definitely her love language. It's just kind of, it was hard to pinpoint, because she just thinks so differently. You have to really sometimes search.
Sherry, that's a really excellent example to say even a child that has a different way of communicating and reacting to her environment and so forth, it became pretty clear. It sounds like you would have liked to have gotten there sooner than you did, but how is it that you finally figured this out?
Well, because I was thinking about, she usually has a lot of meltdowns. There are a lot of struggles, I'm not going to lie, but I was trying to think of those really good times, what really, I guess some common ground for us, that maybe I could kind of get her out of one of those little melting point, or before she went all the way down to a melting point or whatever it is, just I was really paying attention. And it actually, you know what, to be honest, it was when we were home with COVID, and I was at home for 5 months with her. You get really close. And I really paid attention to what she, to what made the days better, what made her day better, what she responded to. And even if I kid you not, I was struggling. We struggled to get her to eat with silverware. And so I bought her a special fork. It was different than anybody else's fork, but it was her fork. Man, I'm telling you, that was the trick.
Wow.
Just, And so I use it sometimes to my benefit, to make things go a little smoother for her. But she loves this. But I have to thank COVID in a kind of weird kind of a way, because over those 5 months of being with her, it just really was very evident that that definitely is her love language. So.
Thank you. One quick question. Were you aware of the love languages, and were you looking for these 5, or is it just coincidental that the gifts thing happened to present itself as the answer to a lot of what you were trying to accomplish?
I'm pretty familiar with love language.
Okay, good.
And being a foster parent for so long, anyway, yeah, no, I was pretty aware, but it just all clicked, just.
Nice. Terrific. Well, thank you, COVID. Like you say, in some weird way.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyone else? Anything that you've observed in your own homes with the kids that we had online and in your own assessment of your love language that you'd like to share? Let's go ahead and go through a few more slides that I have. I'm going to back up just a bit. And this really is a series of questions that help us to remember that this is, again, not only about us, but with whom we're trying to have a relationship. Because, again, certainly if we're not speaking the same love language as someone, we've done and probably gotten pretty frustrated with doing some really nice things for folks in the past that we thought were conveying love, and it was not well received. And that day after day after day is a significant problem. And as Pam brought up earlier, you can literally see significant changes in relationships once people are aware of this. Truly, if it comes down to a young autistic girl getting gifts and her life, it certainly doesn't completely change her life, but it makes everybody's day much brighter and easier. We can imagine what it can do in a marriage or whatever. As far as saying, now I get it, now I get it that I should have been excited about the roof. And maybe he should have been more in tune with, that wasn't my thing. But ultimately, once we have that understanding, then we can work with it. And then vice versa. Are there times when I have thought someone doesn't care for me? They're not showing love. They're not filling my tank. And it's simply because they're trying to do things that don't speak to me. How can I, or did I receive that act of love? And, if it fell flat with me, how did the other person respond? Anybody have any thoughts or stories or questions or comments on this concept of the disconnect? I suspect we all know it's very real and may not have known it was exactly, there's other things that people have issues around, but it is amazing to me how much does indeed come down to love languages. I love the beginning of that video where the guy says, I'm doing chores, I'm bringing you gifts, I'm spending time with you. What is wrong here? Why is this not working? And I think in that video, what was left unsaid is the thing that he wasn't doing was words of affirmation. So I think in the intro to that, the implication was that there was a spouse whose love language is words of affirmation. That was the one thing that he was not doing well. So, okay, so I want to show you this video, Erica, if this works well. We skipped the one, which I'm not going to worry about right now. But I think this is an interesting little video. This comes out directly of the Love Languages organization. And they have 5 of these, and these are cute little animated videos that if you're having trouble, whoops, I think we want the other one.
Okay.
If you're having trouble figuring out what a child's love language is, I think you might be able to use these 5 little videos and see how they respond. So this is the one that's specific to quality time, but let's watch this little video and see if this could be a tool for you. thanks. So to me, that's silly, all these animated things and goofy noises and stuff, but that might be something that would be very helpful to you in working with children. I do think that this is, I recently took a communications class with a woman particular to Asperger's, autism, and neurotypical relationships, and she just talked a great deal about we all have to be investigators, and I think that that's going to ring true with this, is to say it's worth the search to say what is each child's love language, because I think it's going to really help in your work with children, and particularly with children who have not necessarily come down an ideal path to be in your home, and unconditional love has not necessarily been in any way part of their experience. So the rest of this workshop, I've got some basically hints, and we'll try to get through these, and then we'll leave a little bit of time for any other questions. So one of the things, and I've already mentioned this briefly, in working with teens, that it's still the same love languages, but you're going to have to figure out different dialects for use with teens, because if we continue to do things in the same way we did it when they were younger, it's going to feel can feel very childish to them. And so, you know, the smothering little kids, I always think about little kids and how you can wad them up in your arms and you wrestle them around and you kiss them on their heads and all that kind of stuff. And that works really well with little children. But even if a teen's love language is physical touch, that's probably not going to go well. So at that point, you're probably doing more of the high five thing, or the, you know, the knuckle bump or whatever like that, you know, frankly, hitting them on the back end, that kind of stuff. It depends on the child, of course, or the teen, of course. But ultimately, it's gonna look different. It's gonna feel different, and it's something that we're gonna have to make that transition. Another thing that I think is buried down here in a little bit is that if we're going to be effective with teens, we're going to have to learn to have some interests. We're going to have to basically find shared interests, or learn to be interested in what they're interested in. So we'll get to that in a minute, I think. One of the things that's important to know, I think, I'm assuming some of you foster or are raising infants. At that stage, again, we're using all 5 love languages, but what's really important is the tone of voice as opposed to the importance of the words being used. So, and not that tone isn't important with all of us, but that's an important thing to keep in mind, particularly with babies. Throughout all of this, we're trying to focus on being affectionate, being encouraging, to instill confidence and courage in the child or the teen. And we really, I think, need to focus on the effort, not perfection. We don't have to have the whole words of affection down such that we say the perfect thing at the perfect time. But instead, it really is a matter of, as the video said, it's the thought that counts, and that certainly is a big part of what we're talking about here. Some warnings, and I've already talked a little bit about some of the warnings we need to be aware of. It is going to be more difficult, or it can be more difficult to determine the love language of children or teens who have experienced trauma. So that likely could take you more time, more experimentation, more observation. But the work of Dr. Chapman would encourage you that that is still there. It is there somewhere to be discovered, so worth the effort. And as I mentioned earlier, discipline, if we use disciplinary methods that essentially take away the love that feeds their tank, for instance, speaking very negatively in the child's language, results in severe punishment. And we really want to avoid that. So in the example of a love language that is words of affirmation, to be critical of that child or teen is very dangerous territory, frankly. We don't want to go there. If the love language is quality time, basically saying, I'm not going to spend time with you. You're grounded from us doing things as a family or us doing things together. or I'm going to spend more time with the other kids now. That kind of stuff would be, again, perceived as severe punishment. If gifts is the love language, not recognizing milestones and accomplishments and not giving a gift at those times would be a form of punishment. And ignoring the needs of the child or the teen while meeting the requests of others for acts of service would be something we want to avoid. And then, of course, being unwilling to touch the child or touching the child in a harsh way, if their love language is physical touch, then those are things that we want to avoid. So be aware that, again, essentially there's nothing worse than taking the love language and doing it in reverse in a manner that is being used for discipline or punishment, because it will indeed be perceived that way. And then the last thing on this page is that using the term I love you always needs to stand alone with no qualifiers. So I love you when you get great grades is probably not as appropriate as simply I love you. Or I love you when you clean your room, or, you know, I love you because you look so pretty today. Those kinds of things are very dangerous, and we want to avoid those. Please jump in with any questions or comments. Right now, this screen-wise, I'm not seeing anything except for Erica's screen, but I assume everybody's still there. Okay, specific to the 5 love languages, words of affirmation. Just keep in mind that it is part of our, the way that we parent and the way that we teach, that training children and teens tends to be critical. We tend to the critical side of things, and it can also emphasize failure. So if a child or teen, if words of affirmation is their love language, we need to be particularly aware of avoiding criticism and emphasizing failure. It's also important, and I'm sure I'm not telling a lot of you anything that you don't already know, but words may mean little or nothing to a child who has experienced time and again broken promises. So realize that if a child is from a traumatic background and words of affirmation is his or her love language, that we're going to have an extra difficult time getting to where we can have those words of affirmation able to stick and to be believed. So that's a tough particular dynamic for kids who have, again, had many things happen in their past that meant that words were really meaningless. If quality time is the child or teen's love language, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have to enter into their interests. So with a 6-year-old, it's not so much that we have something in common as far as how we want to spend our time together, but it does get to be more important as they age. So I can use myself as an example here. I have one adult son, and I can tell you I run football pick'em pools, and I know everything you need to know about 32 NFL teams and on and on and on. And that would have never been something that would have been a path that I would have taken alone. But because of my son's interest in that, starting when he was about 8 or 9 years old, that was important to him. And it was interesting enough to me that it was easy enough to make it important to me as well. So if I would have dug in my heels and say, I'm not interested in that, I'm interested in photography and reading and, you know, whatever, it would have been far more difficult to say that we could spend quality time together. And even though my son's love language is not quality time, I still think it's very important that we realize that with teens, we're going to have to find those common interests or develop those common interests. Gifts. We've already talked a little bit about this. Gifts can be meaningless or can become meaningless. So as was shared earlier, we want them to be very thoughtful and meaningful. And we certainly don't want to use those to teach some false set of values. So as I mentioned earlier, we need to look at how the child receives the gift and continues to appreciate the gift after it's given as an indicator as to whether that's really the love language or not. But the example of a special fork is perfect. I'm assuming it wasn't said explicitly, but I assume your daughter is eating better because of the special fork, and so that would be an example that that gift really is special and important to her. Gifts can also be a trigger, as mentioned earlier. There's a chance that gifts have been used in the past to make up for parental neglect. So obviously, as with anything that you're doing in the fostering or adopting world, the more you know about the child's past is going to be helpful to the love languages as a tool. Acts of service. Clearly, providing meals, providing shoes, providing a ride to school, all of these things are vital for children. They do not survive without adults' acts of service. So the advice that's given by Dr. Chapman as far as children whose love language is acts of service, that when you do special acts of service, you actually couple that with a verbal I love you, or by doing things that the child or teen knows that is a less pleasant act of service for you. So if cleaning up after a child who's been ill, or you know, fixing something that was broken by the child, anything that is less pleasant, and again, coupling that with a verbal I love you, or I appreciate you, or it's okay, anything like that, can take acts of service out of the realm of simply, I do this so that you can survive. This is beyond survival, and again, to that unconditional love sort of category. And finally, physical touch. This is obviously a very, this is a supercharged love language for kids who have been traumatized, and particularly where physical touch has been used as a weapon or has been used in an inappropriate manner. So initially, one of the thoughts is that probably the physical touch of a foster child or someone else who's been through trauma needs to be minimized, and particularly the number of people who are involved in that physical touch. So that would be one thing to keep in mind, and that we certainly would want to establish and honor healthy boundaries regarding physical touch, particularly all the more with kids that have been through trauma. This one, again, is one that can set things off pretty quickly. So do know that once you figure out what a child's love language is, and again, potentially its misuse in the past, I think you're going to have to tread lightly as you explore how to give that in a loving way that can be received as such. Okay, any thoughts or questions on any of that? Experiences you're willing to share? Questions to wrap up? We've got a few minutes here. Or anything you'd be willing to share again as far as things that have been perhaps aha moments for you, or things that you've learned this evening that might be helpful with your families, with your foster kids, with your adult relationships? Anything that you'd like to share? I'll tell you that my love language as a presenter is that people participate. And that's not said as some sort of a, holding you hostage, but anything that you'd be willing to share, I would love to hear, and I think others would love to hear as well. So any thoughts on how you might be able to use this, or next steps that come to mind that you'd like to implement as we go our separate ways? All right. Well, I would encourage you that I believe and think that this is valuable information. Whatever you can do to further immerse yourself in learning about it. I've got my piles of love languages books here. These are not expensive books. They are available, I think, virtually at all public libraries. I think there's a lot more depth to be found in these books as far as learning more about how to ascertain what a child's love language is and how to take action around that. I would also encourage you, when we did this a few months ago, we actually worked with some of the social workers that worked with parenting of foster kids and so forth. And actually, amazingly enough, I think that there are a lot of love language issues in the workplace. So if you're at a job where there seems to be contention and people feeling lousy and not appreciated, it's really as opposed to love languages, they call it appreciation languages. But I would encourage you to explore that for a workplace or a club or something that you might be involved in, because it's amazing how many human points of friction come down to some of this love language stuff. So anything else to wrap up?
I was just going to say that a lot of the foster kids that I've worked with, especially ones that have had some trauma, they respond better to physical touch, like a tighter hug than normal, or
wow,
just like scratching their back or something randomly.
And is that something that they will do right away, or is that something that you have to develop over time? What's your experience in that regard?
It takes a while usually for
Okay.
them to kind of warm up to you enough to trust you.
Okay. But again, over time, that seems to be something that's a pretty common positive for those kids.
Yep.
Thank you. And what age bracket are you talking about when you share that?
Like 4 to 10 years of age is
Thank you.
usually when. So, yep.
So I hear you saying, don't be afraid of the physical touch, just give it some time.
Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing. That's terrific information. Anyone else? All right, well, Erica, I will turn it back over to you. There's nothing people like more than being able to get out of a training early, even if it's only 3 or 4 minutes. So I appreciate everyone being here this evening, and I hope it was helpful. Thank you so much, Erica. I'll turn it over to you to wrap things up.
Well, thank you very much. It was wonderful. I apologize. Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. If everyone can do the survey link, that'd be wonderful. But otherwise, thank you again for coming all the way from Colorado to this evening.
I appreciate everybody sharing, and I appreciate the fact that some of you may not have felt comfortable sharing, but I hope you'll take it and turn around and talk with someone else about it. So thank you again.
All right, you take care. Bye-bye.